Shadows on Fifth Avenue, Act 5. The courtroom buzzed with quiet anticipation as the final day of testimony began. Journalists, clerks, and spectators filled the benches, but all eyes were fixed on the jury, who had spent the previous days absorbing evidence, weighing testimonies, and listening to the drama unfold between Daniel Reeves and the prosecutor. Daniel sat beside Ethan Vickers, his relaxed Southern charm concealing the intensity of the legal storm he was about to unleash. Spencer Creed leaned slightly forward, notebook ready, eyes scanning for even the tiniest signal of the jury's mood. The prosecutor stood first, pacing before the jury with the precision of a seasoned predator. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "we have presented a straightforward case. A man lies dead, a suspect is found nearby, footprints and shadows point toward him, and yet the defense would have you ignore the obvious. We ask you to consider the totality of evidence, proximity, timing, and behavior that suggests guilt." She paused, letting her gaze sweep over the jurors. Justice for Jonathan Keene demands accountability. The law demands responsibility for one who has committed a crime. It is your duty to deliver that justice. Her voice sharpened as she moved to emphasize the final point. Nervousness, flight, and presence near the crime scene, all these factors taken together build a compelling case for guilt. Circumstantial, yes, but compelling nonetheless. You must not let sympathy cloud your judgment. Daniel leaned back in his chair for a beat, letting her words settle like dust in the air. Then he rose, adjusting his jacket, and approached the jury with a slow, deliberate step. His voice carried the cadence of Southern storytelling, warm but authoritative. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment and breathe. Listen closely because what I'm about to tell you isn't just about law, it's about truth." He began by recounting the prosecution's evidence piece by piece. The footprint, the shadow, the nervous demeanor of Ethan Vickers. "None of these," he said, pacing lightly, "conclusively tie my client to the crime. A footprint can belong to another. A shadow proves nothing. Nervousness is natural when confronted by authority, especially under extreme stress. Yet, the prosecution asks you to believe these assumptions as fact." Daniel let the jury absorb each word before continuing. "We've provided witnesses who saw Ethan walking his usual route. Surveillance footage corroborates his story. Forensic analysis, independent, impartial, confirms that the partial prints on the watch are inconclusive, and that the footprint likely belongs to someone else entirely. There is no evidence placing him at the moment the crime occurred. No motive, no opportunity, no proof." He paused, leaning forward slightly, letting his Southern charm soften the room. "The law doesn't operate on hope, on fear, on assumptions. It operates on evidence. And reasonable doubt? It isn't a loophole, it's the shield protecting innocent lives. My client Ethan Vickers is innocent. The prosecution wants you to fill gaps with stories, with fear, with shadows. But we are asking you to examine what is true, not what is convenient." The jury absorbed his words, faces thoughtful, some nodding subtly. Daniel allowed himself a small grin, a flicker of humor passing through the intensity. "Now I'll leave you with this. When justice is done, it's not just about punishing the guilty. It's about protecting the innocent. Ethan Vickers walked that street, innocent, and he deserves to walk away free because the law, our great system of justice, demands it." He returned to his seat, letting silence linger like a dramatic exhale. Spencer scribbled a note, then gave Daniel a subtle nod. The tension was palpable. Outside, Manhattan carried on, but inside the courtroom, every heartbeat seemed amplified. The judge rose. "Members of the jury, you have heard both sides. You will now retire to deliberate." The gavel struck. The bailiffs escorted the jury to their deliberation room, and a hush settled over the courtroom. Daniel turned to Ethan, offering a reassuring smile. "Kid, we've done our part. Now let's let truth work its magic." Hours passed with the courtroom empty but tense. Spencer walked the perimeter, whispering to Daniel occasionally about procedural details, evidence points, and the jury's likely perceptions. Finally, footsteps echoed from the jury room, a slow procession that carried both hope and anxiety. The jury returned, faces set, papers shuffled. The judge addressed them. Have you reached a verdict? The foreperson stood, voice steady but tinged with emotion. We have, Your Honor. We, the jury, find the defendant, Ethan Vickers, not guilty on all counts. A collective sigh of relief rippled through the courtroom. Daniel leaned back, a wide grin spreading across his face. Well, look at that, he muttered, shaking his head in mock amazement. Truth wins again. Ethan's shoulders slumped in relief. Tears formed in the corners of his eyes as he whispered, "Thank you." I don't even know what to say. Daniel clapped a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Kid, you don't have to say anything. You were innocent. That's enough. The prosecutor remained stoic, glancing at Daniel with a mixture of frustration and grudging respect. Spencer offered a small nod of approval, already cataloging how the defense had dismantled the circumstantial case, every assumption tested, every inconsistency revealed. The judge addressed Ethan. You are free to go. Court is adjourned. The gavel struck once more, final and resonant, marking not just the conclusion of the case but the triumph of reason over assumption. Outside the courthouse, Manhattan streets seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the relief and justice delivered inside. Daniel, Spencer, and Ethan walked out together, the city's hum returning to normal around them, but the weight of the trial still palpable in their minds. Spencer nudged Daniel. Kid's alive in this one. Evidence held. Jury convinced. You did good. Daniel smiled, tipping an imaginary hat to the city. Good? Spencer, we did better than good. We did justice. And let me tell you something, nothing tastes sweeter than justice served with a side of Southern charm. Ethan exhaled deeply, finally allowing himself to relax fully. I feel like I can breathe again, he said, his voice quiet but steady. Daniel patted him on the shoulder. And that, my friend, is what being free feels like. Welcome back to the world. As the trio walked down the steps, the city moving around them, Daniel's mind was already ticking ahead. Next case. Next challenge, next chance to untangle truth from suspicion. But for now, in this chapter, the scales had balanced, the innocent had been spared, and the justice system had, for once, worked exactly as it should. And somewhere, in the flicker of late afternoon sunlight reflecting off the courthouse's polished stone, the gold-plated watch sat safely in an evidence bag, its mystery preserved but its accusations laid to rest. Ethan Vickers' life was his own again, and Daniel Reeves had reminded everyone watching that a clever mind, a sharp eye, and relentless determination could bend suspicion into clarity, and fear into freedom. The gavel struck one last time, the courtroom emptied, and the city outside continued, oblivious yet forever marked by the shadow and light of justice served.